Hey guys, it's Steve. Welcome to the podcast. This is a throwback episode. This is something I'm going to be doing, I think, once a month. So a lot of the platforms I broadcast to or I publish to don't go this deep into my catalog. So a lot of newer listeners have not heard the first 15 or 20 episodes. So I figured why not re-release them and give you a chance. And I know a lot of people re-listen to the episodes, so they might not mind hearing one of the oldies. This is episode number 1, me interviewing Rob McCrary, K9 handler from Pomona Police Department. Rob and I were both nervous, me being nervous because it was my first podcast, and Rob just, I think in general, being nervous to be interviewed and to tell his stories. But you wouldn't know it. He knocks it out of the park. He, to date, still has some of the wildest stories ever. I know everybody that ever heard this podcast that was nuts. I got tons of messages about it. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope this is a way to get you some extra content and to listen to the good old days of Things Police See. So without further ado, here's Rob McCrary.
This is Things Police See, first-hand accounts, with your host, Steve Gold.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 1 of Things Police See, First-Hand Accounts. In this episode, I interview retired Pomona officer Rob McCrary. Rob had an incredible career in Pomona. He saw so many crazy, just out-of-this-world things. You won't believe it. I mean, from shooting it out with gangsters in the street to wrestling people on PCP. This guy has done everything. He's had some crazy times as a cop, and I really think you're going to enjoy this episode. I really enjoyed interviewing Rob. He's just such a great guy, and the interview just really shows you what it takes to be a police officer in Southern California right now, how crazy it can be, and how it affects your life afterwards, what it does to your mind, and just kind of how you relate to everybody else in society. So it's just a great episode. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you again for checking it out, and here it is, my interview with Rob McCrary. I'm here with Rob McCrary. He was a police officer for the city of Pomona for 25 years. And Rob, the only thing I really know about Pomona is that when I moved here a year ago, every time I saw an apartment available, you guys told me not to move to Pomona.
That is true.
It's a tough town.
It's a very busy bedroom community.
Okay. There's a lot of things going on in the houses and neighborhoods.
It has a very high crime rate for the area. If you look at the cities surrounding it, it's kind of like the drain of the area. Everything just kind of falls into Pomona. So
because of this, I'm particularly excited to talk to you about your experience being a police officer there, because I know you have some great stories. Can you describe to everyone what it was like and what was going through your head? And what was the first hot call that you would consider like a real hot call that you ever responded to? And when you went there, you were like, oh my God.
I believe it was probably 1993. I was off training, not even a year. I was assigned to B Squad, which is day shift, working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Me and this guy that I ended up becoming good friends and partners with, we were dispatched to a possible man with a gun call, which that kind of call is pretty common in Pomona because we have a lot of gangs.
Okay. So your litmus test for a hot call might be different than someone like me who worked for a very small town.
Right. We're used to victims of a shooting almost daily.
Right.
Or shots fired pretty much daily.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty violent town.
Okay, so you get dispatched to this call.
Yes, it was up in the Islands, which is the north side of Pomona, which is controlled by, back then, it still kind of is today, but it's a gang. It's a blood gang, African-American gang. They call themselves the 456 Island Bloods. So this particular individual that we came across, his drug of choice was PCP.
Wonderful.
So this, I'd kind of, as on training, come across PCP a little bit, but this was going to be my first welcome to PCP kind of call.
As an East Coaster, these PCP calls were heard on the East Coast, but it was specific to California. Like we heard a lot of PCP.
Yes,
over here.
Yes. With the black gangs back in the 80s and in the 90s, it was still very. It was mostly with the OGs too. And this guy, his name was Andre Swafford. He was a OG blood gangster, always on PCP, in and out of prison.
Oh, jeez.
So he was walking around the neighborhood, acting strange, taking off his clothes. And he had, they saw him with a revolver in his waistband, but he wasn't brandishing it at that time. So we get called, and my partner and I roll up. We're in one-man cars, but we're following each other to the call. We see Andre, and he immediately takes off running. So he runs south through a backyard, and then we enter the backyard. And he's trying to get over a chain link fence, but he's really dusted. So he's having some problems.
So you can only imagine you're running to grab a guy who's known to be behind PCP all the time and has a gun.
Yeah. So what he did was he when he got to the fence, he saw us coming. He throws the gun over the fence into the alley. He turns around, and now I noticed that he's really sweaty. I don't remember what time of year this was, but I just remember he was super sweaty, and he has no shirt on. So he starts running directly at my partner, Officer Lanier, and they start fighting. And Mondo Lanier was the partner I worked with. Mondo back then was in really good shape. He was probably about 6 feet tall, 210 pounds, worked out a lot. And me back then, I was 6'2", about 150 pounds, soaking wet, with sand in my pockets. Not quite physically fit, but I could run. So this guy starts fighting, and I see him grab Mondo by the neck and lift him up and put him into a chain link fence.
Oh man!
So I run over there and kick this man in the balls as hard as I can. And it doesn't even faze him.
That alone is terrifying.
He turns around and he starts running again, starts jumping fences. Now we're 3 or 4 houses away from when we first started, and I'm already exhausted, completely exhausted, and we're putting out a call, a 906 call, which means in Pomona, 906 means we need help like yesterday.
Okay.
So we make it into this garage of this house where the guy is the garage door faces the alley, which would be south. So he's inside the open garage, and he's punching through a plane or what's that? The window. Yeah. Window pane. He's just literally punching through this. He's knocking out supports and everything. He was just not feeling anything. So he goes through the window into the front yard. I run around the side and I try to tackle this guy. And then we're fighting, and I'm hitting this guy. I'm kicking him. I'm doing everything I can, and nothing is phasing him.
Probably with everything you got, it's just not.
So I finally pull out my gun because I'm so tired, and I have my gun at my side in my right hand. I try to pull it up to his head, and he grabs the barrel, and he's just looking at me, and he's literally in the process of taking my gun from me. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, I'm going to die right now.
Oh, man.
So then, out of nowhere, Mondo comes through the broken window from the garage with a flathead shovel and proceeds to hit Andre on the top of the head as hard as he could, and it dropped him like a sack of shit.
Oh, my
God. I'll never forget the sound it made when he hit him on the head with that shovel.
Oh, my God.
It worked.
Just sustain that.
No, he went to the ground. He wasn't unconscious, but he knocked him down, got him off me. He was trying to get up, but Mondo just kept ripping him in the head with this shovel. And I just remember how tired I was at that point. It was just crazy. Yeah. And so then finally other units start getting there, and it took probably another 4 or 5 of us to get him handcuffed.
My God, what a drug.
Yeah, and that's not his only encounter with us that he's had like that. He's had about 3 or 4 906 calls with just Pomona.
There's nothing worse than getting out of breath and exhausted.
Yeah, when you're just out of gas and you realize that you're about to lose your firearm. Yeah, that's bad. I ended up having a couple broken fingers. Mondo, I think, had something wrong with his throat from when the guy was choking the shit out of him up against the fence. But other than that, the bad guy had some serious injuries too. He went to jail for a couple more years for assault on us. And long story short, a couple years after, or right before I retired, he ended up committing a homicide, killed his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend, just basically assassinated him, and he's back in the prison.
You guys were just waiting for this guy to kill someone, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
it's just going to happen.
He'd already gotten away with several shootings, gang-related stuff, but
right.
The last homicide he did on his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend, there was 4 or 5 witnesses, broad daylight, just totally assassinated the guy.
Wow. So after you get done wrestling with him, and you have him buckled up in the cruiser, like, what was your mind frame after that? That was the first time you ever saw this. You did this job, and you're like, wow.
That was the first time I thought that you could really die doing this job.
Right.
I mean, you really, you know it. They tell you that, and you see it. You hear
you're young. You're
but
strong.
I just never. I don't think it never really imprinted on my brain until that incident, and I realized, man, I got to start working out.
Yeah.
That was not cool.
Wow, that's incredible. Rob, can you tell me about the most bizarre or strangest? I'm sure you have a bunch of them, but just a bizarre or strange call that you went to.
Well, I wish I could remember. There's so many more details about this call. I can't remember, but I do remember the basics. And again, this is like right around the same time I was a new guy on day shift working that weekend day shift. And I was working over on the east side of town, and I get called. They dispatched me and a backup call and a supervisor. And they also said, hey, animal control is coming. And they said 927 Holt in San Antonio. 927 means check the vicinity for a lion.
Like a mountain lion?
No, they said it was an African lion, like a full-grown
Oh
king
my
of the
God.
jungle African lion. Now, I don't live near the jungle. This city is not near the jungle. So this was odd. So I needed a little more clarification. So I do remember asking the dispatchers to go to Channel 2, and they were dead serious. They said basically this guy who was transporting some wild exotic animals decided to stop by his parents' house in Pomona. And as he did, he parked his truck in front of the house, and somehow this full adult male lion escaped from the back of his cargo truck and was last seen walking towards 7-Eleven at Holt in San Antonio.
So this guy obviously knows Pomona. Probably grew up there, and
his mom lives on Mountain View, just north of Holt.
And he thought it was a good idea to stop by with all of his exotic animals
that he was illegally transporting.
Of course.
Yeah. So here we are. This call is now, everybody's heard this call go out, and so everybody's in the area. And sure enough, walking down Holt with all the hookers and the drug addicts and everybody else is this full-grown mountain lion. Or African lion, like a full, king of the jungle.
Were the junkies looking at it like
everybody
they thought it was in their mind, or did they know it was real?
They were just tripping. Everybody was just tripping out. People were running. People were screaming. We're getting all kinds of calls. And it ended up going over by the park. There's a park right there about a block away. And it went into the park. It kind of sat down on the grass. Looked like he was enjoying himself.
Not a worry in the
world. But I was thinking, I don't know what to do here. I don't think we can shoot it. I don't really want to shoot the lion.
Right.
So they were telling us to just try to keep an eye on it, and they had wildlife people from the forestry department, some park rangers or something, who had weapons to deal with this thing.
Right, probably game wardens or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah. So it took them, at least a half hour. So we were following this lion all over the place over on the east side of town, trying to keep people away from it. It didn't really seem like it was being aggressive. It looked like it was confused.
Kind of loping around.
Yeah, just like, and then the driver said that all the animals had been given drugs for the ride.
Oh, that makes sense.
So he wasn't really being aggressive, but it was just the craziest thing I'd ever seen.
Were you even confident that you could stop the thing?
No. I remember I got probably the closest to it than the other units, but I don't want to get out of my car because I don't know much about lions. I just thought, fuck, that thing can kill me if it wants.
Yeah, they're like 600 pounds.
I have a shotgun, but, I don't really want to shoot this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how the hell has he ended up in Pomona? Why is he here? Right. I don't even know where he was coming from.
Damn.
So ultimately, the warden guy gets there. They shoot it with some darts or something. The thing passes out. They ended up loading it up. They took custody of that animal. And I guess there was a couple other exotic creatures in the guy's truck. They ended up citing him. The animals weren't stolen, but he didn't have the right paperwork, the right equipment.
Naturally.
Yeah. So that was a trip.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'll never forget that one.
That's nuts. Rob, can you tell everyone the most intense and or terrifying call that you were one of them that you were involved in?
Okay, so fast forward to 1996 right around 96. I was working with all people, Mondo Lanier again, 2-man car, working swing shift. And this particular shift, there was, we were on F squad. So each squad has about 7 guys on it, plus a sergeant and a corporal. Well, right out of the gate on this particular day, one of our guys from our squad was down on the south end, and he just happened to be standing in the backside of In-N-Out Burger, which backs up to this neighborhood. Well, the street you can access like through the neighborhood, also through the main thoroughfare, which is Gary. Well, while he's standing there, a drive-by shooting is occurring in the street. So there's these gang members shooting at a moving vehicle on the street behind In-N-Out. And they're using like Tech 9s and I think an Uzi. Oh, so they're lighting this truck up, and they ended up killing the guy. Well, Brian Bozarth, he grabs a shotgun out of his unit, runs over to the backside of In-N-Out, sees the suspects trying to run away, so he starts shooting at them. Wow. So we have an officer-involved shooting going on in the south end of town, right out of briefing. So that was crazy. So fast forward a couple hours into the night, and it was a real cold night, working a 2-man car in the south Beat 5, southwest Pomona. And we kept hearing shots, like in the distant, like distinct. They're like moving around, but we could hear them every few minutes. We hear pow, pow. And so we get dispatched to a suspicious search call over in the 1000 block of West 8th Street. And this is a duplex. It's a 2-story duplex. The lady calls police and says, there's somebody on my front porch. I don't know who it is. I can't really see him. It's dark. But I can hear like a weird clicking noise. Like he looks like he's seated on my porch and he's making this weird clicking noise. So we're thinking maybe it's related to the shooting, the shots fired call. We're not sure.
Right. So
we roll down the street. And I remember as soon as we were getting closer to the house, I just had this like voices in my head. I always have these little voices. It's like, you need to get out of the car. And I don't know why. I just felt like we had to get out of the car.
Felt like a sitting duck.
Yeah. So me and Mondo get out. We start making our approach on foot. And we had to go down this really long driveway to get to the back. And then we make a sharp right turn. And it's a little parking lot. There was a Volkswagen Bug parked right next to the front part of the complex. And then looking north, it's a stairwell up to the landing where this lady lives. So her house is above her garage. So we see this guy, really dark. I hit him with my flashlight. He's wearing like a black leather trench coat. He looks like he might be drunk or maybe under the influence.
Right.
So then I shine my light and I'm like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Let me see your hands. And the guy just looks at me, and he's got this like just crazy look in his eyes. He doesn't say a word. And he comes up with his right hand with a 6-inch .357.
It's a hot round.
And bow, he starts letting them loose. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't even have a chance to pull my gun out or anything.
Wow.
So I just remember hitting the deck. Mondo retreated back to the driveway, the corner, but I was stuck behind this front tire of this Volkswagen. So the bad guy he didn't. Obviously, he missed me because I was still alive. So I pull my gun. I start laying down rounds up at the where I last saw him, and it's so dark that I'm basically shooting at muzzle flash.
So whatever your gun lights up the night.
Yeah, and his, where I can see him.
Okay.
So this goes on.
It's like a terrifying
forever.
strobe light.
Yeah, forever. I'm shooting, and I realize at one point it looked like I may have hit him a couple times because he's rolled over on his side, and it looks like he's like maybe trying to do a reload or something. So I'm thinking I'm in a bad spot because Volkswagen, there's no engine in the front.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in my mind, I'm going to run to the garage that's open underneath him. Then he won't be able to shoot at me.
Right.
And that seemed like a really good idea at the time. So I see the bad guy still doing what he's doing. I can't see Mondo. So I make a break for it. And probably like 3 steps into it, he starts coming back around. So I don't know what to do. So I just run up the stairs right at him. And I just put in a magazine. And I put the whole thing into him. 13 rounds. And then my slide locks back. And he's still alive because I'm looking at him. And I like scream, oh my God. So I jump off the side of the stairs into the grass. I roll, hit a fence, run back to the VW and reload.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Mondo starts shooting from the backside of the car. I crawl back to where he's at. Bad guy goes down. And now we're just kind of at a standstill.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So I ended up firing a total of 27 rounds. I did 2 reloads, and I don't remember any of them.
I bet.
And it ended up, after everybody got there, we used a dog to bring him down.
Yeah.
He was still alive.
How many times was he shot?
15.
Wow. What were you guys carrying for a caliber?
45 caliber.
Oh my
with black
goodness.
Talon rounds.
I mean, you can't get any better stopping power than that.
Yeah.
He was on PCP?
He was. He was a Southside Village Crip, just got paroled. Wasn't a real big family guy. His family didn't even try to sue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he ended up, I think he was pretty much dead at the point. They brought him down the stairs, but they transed him, got him to the hospital. And the doctor was just amazed at how many holes he had. And like, why did you bring me this?
Yeah.
You know, there's not much I can do here.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. But I ended up losing a lot of hearing because the backside was the front complex of this. It was stucco. Mm-hmm. And then I was surrounded by a block wall and then another building. So I just remember each round was just so loud. It was like cannon fire.
The 357 Magnum is so loud anyway. I mean,
but every round I fired even was loud.
Okay.
So I could not hear anything. I had ringing in my ear for probably 3 weeks.
Do you get tinnitus still? Like
yeah, I have tinnitus all the time. And I cannot, and then, well, plus you add 8 years of a canine barking in your
right.
in your ear. So
yeah. When that hand cannon was shooting at you, I've never been shot at. Is it a different sound? Like, because it's, I mean, you're getting muzzle flash right towards you.
I don't
Can you
even
hear
remember
the bullet rip through the air?
I don't remember the sound of his gun. I just remember the flash, the fire that came out of the barrel, because it was so dark that night, and there was no lighting back there at all. And I immediately, I guess I dropped my flashlight because I never saw him. I was just going by with every time I saw a flash.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you go to sleep at all when you went home for that?
No, dude. Oh my God, I was like for 12 hours. I was just wired,
ramped up.
Yeah.
When that happens on your job, would they? How much time off would you get? Would you get some time to talk to someone? And
well, they mandatory give you 3 days, and then you have to get cleared by a shrink.
You're probably like, oh, "What's the big deal? I'm fine."
Well, I had all these. I had several of these occur like within a short amount of time. So I was at the point in my career. I'm thinking every day I go to work, it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen tonight?
Yeah, that must. I mean. The adrenaline dumps involved in that. It's like running your body on nitro.
Yeah, you kind of get addicted to it though at a certain point, because you know, with that and then all the pursuits, because I was really into stolen cars, and I don't know, I just got a kick out of that.
Okay,
chasing bad guys, not knowing what's going to happen, really doing stupid things.
So you loved it.
Yeah.
So after all those experiences and countless experiences we haven't heard about, how do you feel like it affected you? I know we talked a little bit before about your girlfriend you're with now, and she's not in police work or anything. I mean, at what point did you realize, like, this job, the negativity and constant bombardment of all those experiences made you kind of a different person than someone who goes to a 9-to-5 job?
Well, and it's weird because when you're a cop, you generally only hang out with cops.
Right.
And I don't know why, but it just seems to be that way. So you don't really notice how odd or different you are.
Right.
But as I got in this relationship with someone who has nothing to do with law enforcement, and all her friends are just normal folks, no law enforcement, then you start to realize how odd you are. You don't even think the same.
Right. Your mind just works differently.
Yeah. And you're just, it's kind of sad in a way. I think we're so aware of everything all the time that we never get a chance to just relax.
Right.
And it gets to be overbearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Did they have at your work, did they have, all we ever had was like an 800 number on the wall.
Well, I ended up seeing a mental health lady after my wife passed away, and before I met Tammy. And you start to realize that all this stuff does take a toll.
Yeah, it
does physically. And if you don't have a good outlet, it'll eat you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, what would you say? What piece of advice could you offer to a new candidate, a new recruit coming on the job as a police officer? Any piece of advice you'd give them?
I think I would try to tell them to first avoid the cop diet that they all fall into.
Right.
Which, you and I both know what that is. Eating shitty food all the time. But try to keep your friends around that are normal. Don't just exclude yourself with just cops and firemen or whatever.
That's good advice.
Because it kind of keeps you, I think it'll keep you a little more grounded and a little more aware of the real world, because we're always dealing with the problems that sometimes these problems have been building up for years and years and years, and we're expected to solve, family issues that in 5 minutes, but they've been occurring for 15 years.
Right.
And there's no, we're not trained for that. You have to wear so many hats with this job. It's just ridiculous.
Absolutely.
So I would, be careful. Just understand what you're getting yourself into.
Good stuff. Rob, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. You had some fantastic experiences you shared.
No worries. Anytime.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this interview. If you did and you want to show some support for the show, please go to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.